Hello everybody, I am Charlie from Dr. Wen, and welcome along to yet another daily Doctor Who YouTube video. As promised, I am back, and today I will be continuing my usual series and ranking all episode 10s of New Who. These episodes are sometimes part of two-parters, so for those then I will only include the first and second part, and overall I really generally enjoy them. The lowest spots aren't that bad, but yeah, they're just pretty meh. These episodes include The Doctor Dances, Love and Monsters, Blink, Midnight, The Vampires of Venice, The Girl Who Waited, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS, In the Forest of the Night, Face the Raven, The Eaters of Light, The Battle of RANSKOOR of KOLOS, and The Timeless Children. So this video, will have some very unpopular opinions that most people probably don't agree with. Most of the time my opinions have been usually on par with the general consensus, but this time it's kind of breaking that trend, and yeah, I'm going to have some pretty controversial opinions here. So without further ado, let's get into this video, and I hope you enjoy. If you do enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. It would really help me out, since I'm still quite a small YouTuber, and feel free to post your rankings in the comments. I'd really like to hear your opinions as well. In 12th place we have the Battle of RANSKOOR of KOLOS. This is the 10th episode and finale of Series 11 of Doctor Who, which unfortunately is my least favourite series of Doctor Who as a whole. Overall, this is a pretty meh finale. It's not that great. I think it's quite underwhelming. See, I really liked the previous episode, It Takes You Away, but this one's just a bit underwhelming. I do quite like this kind of, intergalactic war setting on this, war-torn planet. I thought there was some really cool special effects and cinematography and visual effects, that sort of thing. And I actually really appreciate, the work that must have gone into, creating this world. It was actually really good. Overall, though, the Doctor and the companions are pretty meh, and the plot doesn't really lead anywhere. Graham did actually get quite a bit of development, so I got to, thank him for that, when he was trying to avenge Grace's death by wanting to kill that Tim Shaw person, who I didn't really think needed a return. It was kind of just their attempt at a series arc, having the same villain for the first and last episode, and it didn't really work that well. I appreciate them trying, though. I see what they were going for. I think this was a good idea executed pretty badly. I gave it a 6.8 though, so it's still not terrible, just pretty meh, and yeah, not the greatest. In 7th place we have In the Forest of the Night, which I've given a 7.6. In the Forest of the Night is another extremely hated episode, so we haven't got any unpopular opinions yet. And I don't think it deserves the hate it gets. I think it's definitely one of the worst on this list, and the worst of Series 8. But it's still not that bad. I really like Series 8 as a whole, and yeah, this is a bit of a weak episode before the two-part finale. Most pre-finale stories tend to be a bit of filler, just like this, but it's not that bad. It does develop Danny a bit before his unfortunate death in Dark Water, and but yeah, the children who the Clara and Danny are kind of looking after, they're really annoying. Overall, with that Maeve person, that whole subplot with her missing sister isn't really needed. I like how I see what they were trying to do, having this more character piece as a bit of a sequel to The Caretaker, having Clara, Danny and the Doctor kind of bounce off each other, and their chemistry is pretty good. However, this is a pretty weird plot, having these trees grow randomly overnight, and the whole subplot with Maeve, and it just doesn't really work that well, but I see what they were going for, and it doesn't really deserve the hate it gets. In 10th place we have Love and Monsters from Series 2. This is one of the later episodes of Series 2, and it's actually a Doctor and Companion Light episode. They only appear very briefly at the start and end, and a little bit in the middle, but lots of people really hate this. It's not on IMDb's top 10 worst Doctor Who episodes, but people still really don't like this, and I've known multiple people who class this as their least favourite story of all time. Personally, I don't really see the hate. I mean, I do get the Absorbaloff isn't a very good villain, but this was designed by a 7-year-old, so I mean, what do you expect? It's not going to be the next Dalek or anything, is it? It's still alright. I think they could have done better at designing the creature. I know there were 7, but I don't know, I think it's just pretty weird. Overall, the plot-wise, it's actually quite interesting. It has some really good, cool concepts. Like, we have this like group of people trying to track down the Doctor. It's a bit like Clive from the episode Rose. It reminds me a bit of that, and it's the first time they've kind of tried a Doctor Light episode, and it didn't work very well. I think there were some very weird moments that I'm not really going to talk about here, but there were some very weird like moments within this story, and the third part of it just didn't really sit right with the reveal of the absorber lock and the whole chase and the person's face being plastered onto that pavement slab. It was just really, really odd, and it doesn't really feel like a Doctor Who episode. In ninth place is Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. We're getting on some really good episodes here. This is another really hated episode actually, and I've got to say, I really like it. It's about a group of people who like scavengers who are like collecting spaceship parts and stuff, and they pull in the TARDIS, and Clara is trapped down in the depths of the TARDIS, so the Doctor tricks them into thinking that there's a self-destruct inside the TARDIS, locks them in there, and says that if they don't help him find Clara within 30 minutes, then the whole ship will explode. Turns out that didn't actually happen, and he was just pretending to make them look for Clara, and eventually they found her. Yeah, this isn't a very bad episode. I think it's quite a cool concept, like, you know, exploring these depths of the TARDIS. We've not really done that before. We sort of did in The Doctor's Wife, and even the very third serial of the season 1 of Classic Who. Then we actually, in The Edge of Destruction, then we actually get lots of the TARDIS as well. So it reminds me a lot of that. Clara is brilliant in this, and I do like how we get to see loads of the different rooms in the TARDIS that have been mentioned before, such as the library. And yeah, it gives lots of nods to past episodes, and I actually really enjoy it. Next up, we have Vincent and the Doctor, which is an extremely unpopular opinion. As you might be aware, The Timeless Children is in episode 10. So is Vincent and the Doctor. This list goes from worst to best, and The Timeless Children hasn't been yet. Yes, I basically just said that this is worse than The Timeless Children. Lots of people love this episode. I really like it too. I wouldn't go as far to say love it, but I think it's a really solid episode. It's more of a character piece, definitely. Vincent, that whole scene where he's in the gallery is actually really emotional, and you know, like seeing all his works there, and you know, being told he was the greatest painter of all time right in front of his face. I thought that was really, really good. But Amy's reaction to find out he still, you know, died is really actually sad. Overall, though, plot-wise, it's not the greatest. We have that weird like invisible creature, like chicken creature that the Doctor could only see with this machine. He spends most of the time not even with Vincent and Amy, and just kind of looking for this invisible chicken thing. I thought that was quite odd, and an invisible enemy was only there to kind of, you know, help the budget out without using much money. I think this is still a really emotional story though, and plot-wise, yes, it isn't the greatest, but it's still really, really good. Next up, we have the Eaters of Light from Series 10. This is the very first episode before the incredible, perfect two-part finale, World Enough and Time and the Doctor Falls. I've given this an 8.2, and honestly, it's still pretty good. We have the Doctor, Bill, Missy and Nardole, so the biggest TARDIS team in Series 10 so far, and in this one, it's really interesting. Nardole is really funny. I do quite like how Bill is off by herself, and Missy is actually good in this, which is pretty much the only episode besides Empress of Mars where she is. And it's really good. The Doctor is brilliant in this. I think late Series 10 was his absolute peak as the Doctor, and during Series 10 I kind of established him as my favourite Doctor ever. I do quite like, it's quite an interesting concept, like what happens to Ninth Roman Legion. I do quite like how it's a historical episode, and yeah, I think lots of the historicals I think should have been pure historicals. I don't mind this actually. I think the Eaters of Light are really cool villains, and I do quite like how they like suck the light out of you and like really dark. I thought that was a really interesting idea, and this is just a really fun episode to watch. Next up, we have The Doctor Dances, which I've given an 8.9 out of 10. This episode has a new member of the TARDIS team. It actually introduces Time Agent Jack Harkness. This features the Ninth Doctor, Rose and Jack, and it's from Series 1. It's really, really good. It's the second part of a two-parter set in World War II London, and it's basically about a gas mask zombie who goes around saying, "Are you my mummy?" and it's incredibly scary. This is probably even scarier than The Empty Child, even those scenes where he's at the door. I think this is genuinely scarier than it, especially with all those gas mask zombies. It's just really good. I like how they made a sci-fi twist on such a generic concept. It's really good. I love that scene with the Doctor using those like nanoparticles and throwing them at everyone, saying everybody lives. I really loved that. That was absolutely brilliant, and this episode made me really, really like the Ninth Doctor. It's absolutely brilliant, and I love it every time. Next up, then we have Face the Raven from Series 9. This is the third to last story of Series 9 and features the leaving of Clara. This is where she dies, and it's really, really emotional. I do quite like how Riggsy returned in this. He's a sort of companion who previously appeared in Flatline, and it's honestly really, really good. Lots of people don't really care for this episode that much, and I didn't on my first watch, but on my second watch I really liked it. The whole idea of a trap street is really creative, and just really, really liked this story. It's there is a whole subplot with Riggsy, you know, being framed for being a murderer, which is kind of only exists to, you know, have Clara die, I thought. And I don't think Way Out was the best, because Clara's always known for being a very intelligent person, and she was pretty stupid, saying, you know, she'll take that curse. I don't think that was very thought out of her, but this is still a really good story, incredibly emotional, and sets up Heaven Sent really, really well. Next up we have Midnight from Series 4. I've given this an exact 9 out of 10. I think lots of people consider this their best Doctor Who story ever. I think it's a little bit overrated. It's still brilliant. I really like the villain in this, how we, you know, never get to see it, but I do prefer the first part to the second part, having just these knocks instead of having this creature possess a person and then steal the Doctor's voice. I thought that was really good. This also has some really annoying side characters actually, but they're so annoying they're good. It's like a group of people on a bus who just don't trust the Doctor. This also has a really claustrophobic setting, making it really creepy, and this also actually has one of the side characters, this professor with he has glasses. He's actually played by David Troughton, Patrick Troughton's son, which I thought was quite an interesting detail. And yeah, this is just a really fun episode, and I think it's one of the better companion light stories. In third place we have The Timeless Children with a 9.2 out of 10. This is a very controversial episode because it changes basically the entirety of the Doctor's past. You know, like before Gallifrey and things like that. Lots of people hate it. They think the plot is terrible, and I completely disagree. I really like how the Doctor's back on Gallifrey. It, you know, really resolves that kind of plot thread we've got going on with the cliffhanger and the Master emerging. The Master is brilliant in this, even better than in Spyfall. I do quite like I said, how they return to Gallifrey and the Doctor's trapped within the Matrix. That scene where she breaks it, you know, by kind of giving it all of her memories of being a Time Lord. I thought that was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. Overall, this is an incredibly strong episode. I really like the Cyber Masters. They were brilliant. Everything about this I honestly really like, and it genuinely doesn't deserve the hate. The Timeless Child twist would have been better if it was the Master, and I have got a theory this actually is the Master and he was just lying to the Doctor because that's what he does. But yeah, this is still a really strong episode and I really like it. In second place we have The Girl Who Waited from Series 6. This is one of the latest stories of Series 6, and it's brilliant. It is honestly really, really brilliant. It's got this it's called this Two Streams facility, and they're on a quarantined planet called Appalachia. In it, the Doctor can't really leave the TARDIS. Basically, he and Rory go to one time stream. Amy goes to the other, where she ages rapidly. And I think it's just really interesting because Rory has to choose which wife he wants to take home: the aged one who's been in the Two Streams facility for 50 years, or the Amy he knows who's only been in there for a couple of weeks. I thought that was really, really interesting, and just a really emotional episode as well, where he's got to choose, and that Amy dies because Amy goes back in the TARDIS and is saved by Rory. I thought that was really interesting and just honestly brilliant. I honestly really like this entire episode and concept of it. It's just purely flawless. It's brilliant. But there's one better than it.